In November of 2020, my 14-year-old daughter went with her father to Florida for visitation. 3 days following her visitation, I received a phone call stating that my husband allegedly groped her 4 years ago one time.
How to Fight CPS and Win. Okay, let's take another call, Brian. Let's talk to Angelina from California. Angelina, do you have a story to tell or a question to ask?
Yes, I do. I have a story to tell. In November of 2020, my 14-year-old daughter went with her father to Florida for visitation. 3 days following her visitation, I received a phone call stating that my husband allegedly groped her 4 years ago one time. We went through a full-blown investigation where there were many inconsistencies in her story, and then they ended up, CPS, investigated everyone and ended up closing the case as inconclusive, and for me as general neglect as unfounded. I have a younger daughter who's 11 years old who was also interviewed by CPS twice, the police, myself, and her father, and they questioned my daughter during the investigation. She said nothing ever happened to her. She felt safe with my husband in the home. And like I said, at that time, I had no reason to believe she wasn't telling the truth. So moving forward, the case was closed. There were no findings. Nothing was charged. And we tried to return back to our lives as normal. 4 months later, I seen a text message on my younger daughter's telephone where she wrote that she was holding in something that could get someone locked up. So I questioned her about it, and after about an hour and a half, she admitted that my husband, about 4 years ago, laid down with her while I was asleep and looked down her pants. So immediately I took action. I called the police. I kicked them out of the home. I got a restraining order, and I filed for divorce. I did everything legally possibly that I can do. I told her father about it, and the first day he was very supportive. The next morning, he called me and told me, I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm taking our daughter away from you. So we went through emergency custody hearing, and the courts granted him temporary sole legal and physical custody of her pending the investigation. CPS came to my home and, only spent about 10 minutes here with me. And she said, because I brought my husband back into the home after the case was closed, even though there was no finding, they put me as substantiated as general neglect to my younger child. So now I'm trying to fight the custody to try to bring my daughter home. Like I said, the husband is no longer in the home. I have put every restriction on him. He has a 5-year restraining order. I filed for divorce. And my question is, if they closed the case with no findings and everything was inconclusive, there was no proof, no anything, what is your legal advice moving forward to try to get my daughter to be able to come home? Because she does not. She's even said it to everybody. She does not want to live with her father. She's tired of being at his house. He is an ex-con, 2-striking, convicted felon, the whole nine. And I have a clean record. I'm prior military. There's nothing on me. So, what would be your best legal advice for this situation?
Okay, I hope you have a piece of paper and a pencil.
I do.
So the first thing you have to do is appeal the finding that the social worker made substantiating the general neglect. In my humble opinion, that's just ridiculous. And I think you'll be able to win an appeal on that issue. The second thing is you and your attorney have to come up with a strategy. We've been talking, a few minutes here. I'm sure that there's much more to the case than, what we're talking about right now. But you have to sit down with your attorney and come up with a strategy. And then you're going to have to implement it. Overall, it's, there was no neglect on your part, and the child doesn't want to stay with the father. And, look at the father's bad acts and his convictions. And, by the way, you did nothing wrong. As a matter of fact, when you found out about what your husband had done, you had him kicked out and you divorced him right away. There's nothing more
Yes.
that you can do. Was the father paying you child support?
Yes, he is paying me child support. And another thing is that when the case I kept him in the loop the whole time when the first case was being investigated. So he knew my husband was out of the home during the investigation. He was even out of the home staying at his mother's house during that investigation because I had to make sure everything was okay, whatever they were going to find. My daughter's father was aware when he came home. He was aware that he was living here. He didn't have no issue with it until I disclosed this information that I found on a text message to him, thinking he was going to be supportive and we would go through this together. No, he used that to try to gain custody of her. And for some reason, the courts are siding with him because he's saying he's a concerned father. But in my opinion, if he was that concerned about it, he should have reported it when I brought my husband back into the home after the case had closed.
Right.
If he had any concern about that.
Right. He'd be guilty of the same thing you're guilty of, allegedly.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So, do you have an attorney representing you in the family law case?
See, here's another thing. The attorney representing me, he's a criminal attorney, so I think I may have to try to find a different attorney that knows more about family law, because he's just pretty much telling me, oh, well, let's see what the judge says and hope for the best. And I'm not okay with that.
Yeah. I don't know all the different facts, but that doesn't sound like a good strategy to me.
No.
Right? Hope for the best. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, this is my child.
Right. So, I don't know your attorney. He's probably a great criminal attorney. Family law may not be his wheelhouse. I don't know. But what you might want to do is call your local bar association and get get 3 names and interview with them either on the phone or in person and try to find an attorney that's going to, fight for you and try to get your child back. You got to have a plan. Hope for the best is not a plan. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just, my thing is that I'm just trying to get different consultations to see, do I have a strong case, or I feel like my judgment is being on question right now. I didn't know anything about this allegation and I'm trying to protect my daughter.
Right.
And then, I did all the right things. And then now he has her,
right.
He has the temporary full custody and he's using that to his advantage. So anything with it.
Hold on, Angela.
He's telling me.
Sure. Let me ask Brian Hamilton. Brian,
Sure.
We got a couple minutes before the next break. What can you tell this young lady?
Well, I think right now, it sounds like you really are concerned about your daughters. And it sounds like you took the advice of, the police and the CPS reporters and basically understood that there wasn't anything that happened here. And so I definitely want, to let you know, kind of second what Vince said, which is that you haven't done anything wrong here. That you're doing what you can for your kids. And you're trying to do what you can now to, provide for them and to make sure that they're safe. And so I think, I want to just applaud you for that and to just let you know that as you're going through the court systems, you're gonna be made to feel like you did something wrong.
Right.
The other attorney is going to be fighting, for your husband. And he's going to be trying to make a case that that this was somehow your fault. And so just keep trying to remind yourself that I did nothing wrong here. I did everything I could to try and keep my kids safe. And there was a thing here where I didn't realize that this was happening. But as soon as I realized that it was happening, I took the steps that were appropriate in order to make sure that it stopped. And so just hold on to that as much as you can.
Yeah, because the CPS lady told me, she said, the only hang up I have with you is that you brought him back into the home after the case was closed.
Right.
And I'm just like, but you guys put it as inconclusive and there was no findings. So, there's no order saying that I can't bring him back into the home. And my other daughter had lied to them twice and said, no, he's the greatest thing ever, and come to find out he wasn't. So,
yeah. But I think also just make sure when when you see your daughters again, that you emotionally validate them, because she may be holding a lot of guilt for not having said anything prior.
Right.
And she, and just making sure that she doesn't feel like she's to blame either, because a lot of times these, kids in particular their abusers threaten them. They threaten them with physical violence. They threaten them with violence against other people that they know. They threaten to do things that would make it so that they may be taken away from their families. All those things can happen. And so just make sure that you understand that she was also manipulated by him emotionally, and that whatever happened, whatever her reasons were for saying what she did beforehand, just make sure that you're there for her, that you're understanding of what she was going through, and that you can emotionally support her.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Angelina, for calling and listening. And, call us back in a few weeks and give us an update. All right.